Welcome to Payrock, Wyoming Spotlight on businesses and nonprofits, where we shine the light on incredible people that make our community thrive. And today we have Enoch Hart in the studio. Enoch is the owner of Wyoming Signs. Wyoming Signs is celebrating its 10th year anniversary this year. It's a pleasure to have Enoch in the studio. It's been a while. We've trying to have our schedules match, and it hasn't always happened. So I'm very grateful to be able to talk to you more about your business and who you are. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Eric. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Enoch, let's just start by, if you don't mind, talking about your journey. How did you get to Wyoming Signs? What's your career journey, and how did you get here?
Maybe just by a little bit of good luck, a little bit of bad luck. I'm not sure what it is, but I had worked in the construction industry for a large portion of my career, and then also had developed into sales. So it was a natural attrition then to, when the opportunity came, to buy into and then become sole owner of Wyoming Signs. It was just the next great fit.
All right. So are you from the Casper area?
I grew up in Thermopolis,
Right.
but I've been in Casper since I think I moved here 2002, 2003, and Casper's been really good to me. It's been a great home for me. It's been a great home for my children. A great place to build a business.
All right. So now you're an adopted native to Casper.
Yes.
Just like we are.
Yeah, like a good portion of us.
Exactly. So did you have a business? Were you in construction when you were in Thermopolis, or did you do all that here in Casper?
A little bit of that in Thermopolis as a kid growing up, and then I moved to South Dakota, moved to California, came back to Wyoming, and then I'd worked for Wyoming Machinery for 8 years prior to starting the sign company, and that was probably where I really began to develop all the skills that I needed to own and operate a successful business.
All right. So you Wyoming Signs started in 2014, is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right, and you were in management and bought out the business in 2019, is that right?
Yep. So I bought in the first portion of it, had a couple partners, the Haggies. I was partners with them from 2015 until 2019. 2019, I bought them the rest of the way out, and since 2019, Wyoming Signs has owned all of me.
Okay. Okay. So how has construction helped you in what you're doing today? Was that a good lead up to the signage industry?
Yeah, it was a great lead up from fabrication to installation. I had by trade been a welder prior when I first started. I guess at Wyoming Machinery, and then it just has naturally helped. It helps us. We fabricate probably at least 40% of our own products in-house. So having that knowledge has helped a ton, and then that construction knowledge also helps have a good knowledge base for the installation and the engineering side of it as well.
So is there specific projects that you like to work on more than others, or what type of signage really are like the projects you prefer working on?
Probably the ones I prefer the most are just whatever it is that would reflect the most on either the community that it's in and or the business owner. Those are probably the funnest. When you see a large need, when there's a community, when there's a business opening, or there's an existing business that wants to upgrade their image, and you see that need, and you can start with almost nothing, and then when you walk away and realize that's probably one of the best things about the business. It's extremely visually gratifying. When you're done, you can walk away and or pass by that down the road and see that you made a huge difference. So I really see probably our number one purpose is we are there to help our customers make money, whether that is a community doing a wayfinding system. If it's to drive dollars into their downtown area, that is our job. Or if it's a business in town or business across Wyoming that they are needing to get people in their front door, that is our job. Our job is to make sure that we help them become profitable.
So do you work with municipalities?
We do. We work with the Wyoming Department of Transportation. That's probably the largest at the state level. And then we work with a lot of the city municipalities, City of Casper, Town of Mills, City of Evansville, Town of Meeteetse, City of Cody, City of Rock Springs. And then we also do a decent amount of stuff for the federal government as well. So from the Bureau of Reclamation, BLM, USDA. So
that new sign that you put in I think several months back, the Casper sign, as you're coming into Casper.
Yep.
When did you do that one?
That project probably we finished it in 2023. I think it actually bid in like 2021 or something like that. That would be a prime example of a project that was the main scope of that project was through the Wyoming Department of Transportation. And then some of the dollars came from the city as well. And then we were contracted with Ames Construction, who did all the bridge construction right there, reconstruction on I-25. So it's, for the end, it's for the community. We were then hired by the general contractor on the highway project.
All right. Well, that's a great sign. And it's
Thank
a great improvement to that, to as you come into Casper to see that sign. And I think it's just a nice piece of art.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We really do enjoy like those larger projects, the larger fabrication and installation. It just fits our game plan very well.
So you work mostly Wyoming, or do you work other states around?
We work primarily Wyoming. We've done a decent amount of work, throughout other states. We've went as far as Oklahoma, Iowa, Tennessee, Texas, Montana, Idaho, Utah. But it still primarily is covering the Wyoming area, with us being located in Casper. We can draw a pretty big circle and support a large portion of Wyoming. And then it just depends that the end user, our customer, if our numbers fit and work, we'll travel as far as needed. It just has to depend if the numbers that we turn in fit what somebody else needs inside of their budget.
Right. Would you say it's primarily the state or municipalities, or is it also private businesses? Is there a good mix?
There's a really good mix. When Wyoming Signs was first incorporated in 2014, 2015. The large portion of what we did at that point in time was highway signs, which we still do, and a lot of oil field signs. In 2016, the market changed tremendously. So when we compete in, let's use that highway market or that as an example, we don't really compete with hardly any local Wyoming companies. There's maybe one other here in Casper that does also manufacture Wyoming or highway signs, and they do a great job. But we compete in that market with national companies. They're coming, they're out of Texas, they're out of Florida, they're out of Indiana. 2016, that market became extremely saturated in the highway signs. So we still stayed in that market, but we became way more diversified. And then also 2016, there was a oil field really took a hit in Wyoming. We had 40% of our customers dissipate, whether they left Casper, whether they left Wyoming, whether they closed their doors. So we use that as an opportunity to make ourselves way more diversified. That's when we began doing things such as, vehicle wraps and LED message centers and way more, business signage and interior wayfinding. 2016 was very defining for us. That was a good example. That was a good time that we either could have laid down and died or look back at ourselves, reinvent ourselves, become extremely diversified.
Right, and so you did that, and it's obviously working for you.
I think our biggest struggles in life can be some of our biggest blessings, and that was a huge blessing for us.
That's wonderful. So today, what are your core services that you offer?
It's a little hard to say core. I would say that we're broke into probably a piece of pie. There's probably about 10 pieces there. We do a lot of traffic and roadway signage. That would be a typical, like you would see a highway sign. If you're traveling down Wyoming, there's a good chance that was manufactured by our team. We probably manufacture 40% of the highway signs that go up in the state. Business signage from, lit channel letters on the outside of a building, a new lit sign cabinet, LED message centers. We've also started doing a lot of architectural signage, interior wayfinding systems. It's become extremely diversified in what we do. Vehicle wraps, we did 3-4 years ago. I think we wrapped City of Casper's their fleet of buses. 2017, we wrapped the City of Cheyenne their fleet of buses. So there's a wide range there of what we do. Currently we're working on a few larger projects across the state. We're doing a wayfinding system for Park County, which will cover Meeteetse, Powell, and Cody. We are in the manufacturing stage of a large project for Rock Springs, another wayfinding system for them. And then I would say probably here in another 4 to 6 months, we'll be doing also a wayfinding project for Fremont County as well. So for their communities, Riverton, Lander, Du Bois.
That last wrap that you put on Facebook, is it Carbon County that you
Yep.
did? Those wraps were really nice.
Yeah, they turn out nice. And that's a good example of, if someone comes to us, sometimes we design it from scratch. Sometimes they've already had a firm put together a design on it. Like we've received a lot of compliments on that one for Carbon County on the design. And it wasn't our design. Like they had somebody else put it together. Did a great job. It was just our job to make sure that we got it wrapped on the vehicle,
right.
Provide great quality, and meet their timeline as well.
All right. Right. Well, the quality is obviously there.
Appreciate that.
Walk us through the entire process.
Okay, so we'll just use kind of a generic example. Typically, that would come into a phone call or an email. We have a small sales team. I think there's 3 or 4 of us on the sales team that would field that call and or field that email. From that, then that leads to a series of questions. Maybe we set up a meeting to come and see them, possibly a site survey. From that standpoint, once we have an idea of what they want, colors they like, maybe what they see their brand standards as, then we would begin to design out the design. Through our design team, we put together a set of proofs, put those back in front of the customer for their review and hopefully eventual approval. From then that standpoint, then we have a large portion of the raw materials already in-house and or we would order our raw materials. At that time, if there's any engineering that's required, we take care of the engineering. We have an engineering firm that we keep on retainer, would take care of the engineering, would take care of all permitting. If the local city or town, whatever their permitting requirements are, we make sure that we meet those. At the same time, then we begin, manufacturing. Like I said, probably 40% of what we sell we manufacture in-house. Some of it we have some wholesalers that manufacture for us. And then once the materials are ready, then we would set schedule locates, make sure that we're not going to damage any ground or anything like that. Make sure that we're clear with all the municipalities and or like as far as zoning permitting. Communicate to the customer that we're ready for an install. Then we would schedule the install. And mobilize the crew to wherever that might be, install the signs, make sure that we've got good quality control, that everything's in good shape, circle back around with the customer, make sure that they're happy with everything, and then our crew would move on to the next project.
It's quite in depth, the whole process.
It's relatively in depth, yeah. But
So
we've got a good team. Like we've got an extremely knowledgeable group. They care about what they do. So it makes that fairly easy. Everybody jumps in it when it's their point and their time to touch whatever portion of the project it is. And they take a lot of ownership in what we do, which makes it really easy to meet the quality expectations that we have.
That's great. So how long is there a typical project, and is there a time span, a time frame for a typical project? Is it weeks, months?
If somebody was to let's say someone was to call and say, hey, like I want to do a set of new graphics on my vehicle, that typical turnaround on that would be 2 to 3 weeks. If it's one of our normal customers, we probably already have their artwork and everything. They need it that day, we can make it happen that day. I also have projects. We just finished, would have been this winter. We finished a project for Thermopolis for the Hot Springs County Fairgrounds. Been working on that one for probably 8 years. So it really just depends. I mean, some things take a day, some things take an hour, and some things take 10 years.
Right, I get you, yeah. Sounds like my business where I have clients I work with for 2 years before they finally say yes, and other ones it's like 30 days. So
it really is still just a relationship business.
Yes.
Like if you work at the relationship, it'll all pan out. Even if in the end, if they decide not to do the project and or if they decide to go with a competitor, at least hopefully I've tried to educate them on what best fits them.
Right.
So I really view it as like if we really want to partner with businesses that have long-term goals, and we take a great amount of pride in wanting to see them be successful. Probably one of the things that does not feel good is when you do a project for someone and then, when 4 to 6 months are out of business. I don't feel like we accomplished our job then.
Right.
Our job is to help them have success and win.
Yeah. Well, I share that the vision of business 100%. I think that relationships are the main thing. I think that soliciting new business used to be on the top when you just get into business and you're in sales. You want to solicit as much as possible, but I find, especially in our community, what's on the top of the list is relationship building. Your products need to speak for themselves. Your services need to speak for themselves. Your consistency and things like that. But at the very top of the list is what relationships, because that's what lasts.
It is, yeah. One of the things I'll always say, like, I'll never say that we don't make mistakes. What I will say is we will fix them.
Right.
So, and I think that's important. That helps with your long-term planning. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody stumbles a little bit.
Right.
But picking yourself up, picking your customer up, and making sure that they understand, like, hey, we're still here to help you. We're still here to get it fixed. And when we're done, quality and the presentation will be exactly what somebody wants or needs it to be.
100% agree. And I think that's why I don't really like that there's a page on Facebook, the Rants and Raves page. I don't like that because it doesn't represent, I think, who we are. We are human. We are imperfect, but we will make it right because we're here for, the long-term relationships and things like that. And so I think that sometimes that web page, that Facebook page can be extremely negative and it's damaging to businesses too for a one-off mistake or most of the times, in my opinion, it seems like it's a one-off mistake and you never know why the true reasons why there's an incident.
Yeah,
so.
I totally agree with that. And I do believe that, I think COVID 2020, through 2023, 24, you can even say now, like we're still having some effects from it. It surely changed the fabric of our society. It surely changed the fabric of how we do business. I do think from a business standpoint, it's helped all of us, or a majority of us, work on having some grace with one another. I know, Wyoming and Casper prior was a very much, I want it now, I'm going to get it now kind of community, which has done a lot of good for a lot of people. A lot of things have changed in the last 3 or 4 years. There are raw products, raw materials that maybe we can't get as quickly as we can. And I know that it's taught me to have a little more grace with our suppliers than I've ever had in the past. And I feel that we've had customers show us more grace than we've had in the past. But I also believe that it's helped us build stronger relationships than we've ever had as well. Remembering that we're all in this together. We're all trying to help one another win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I've recently experienced that on a job that I had a week and a half ago, is that I think that we're also as strong as the team that we have as well from other businesses. And so you can't do everything alone. You spoke about Ames Construction. There are other businesses here in Casper that we can work together, build those relationships with, because we can't do projects by on our own. We can't.
No, we can't. Yeah.
So what makes Wyoming Signs different? What's your unique approach to?
I would say probably the biggest thing that makes us unique is we have a lot of grit, and we have a great amount of ingenuity. We're not into no, that can't be done. Not a big fan of the word no. Not a big word of the word can't. We have to find a solution if someone has an idea. Now, there's some limitations, right? Like we can come back and make recommendations of like, okay, we need to use a different material or we need to use a different process for fastening it. But I think that ingenuity, we work extremely hard to continually educate ourselves. We've got, I got one gentleman that's in Fort Lauderdale right now for some training. Had another guy that was there last week. I was in Orlando a week and a half ago doing research on new products, new technology. We got another young gentleman that we'll send to Salt Lake here in about 2 or 3 weeks for continuing education. So we are really out there hunting hard to find a better solution, to find new technology to help make ourselves more efficient, more proficient. And there's 2 things that we're trying to do there every time we do that, right? So we're trying to make sure that we can improve our product, also looking for a way to do it more efficiently. If we can find a way to do it more efficiently, then we can make ourselves even that much more competitive price-wise. We've done all sorts of things of that over the years. And would have been 2015, 2016. We changed the processes, a lot of the materials and the processes that we were doing for building a roadway sign. In that time, within about 9 months, we had found a way to build that sign 8 times faster for about 2/3 of the cost. And those are things that we really enjoy doing because we still want to be competitive, right? We still have to be competitive. But then Also, if we can bring a price to where it's more attractive and improve quality and improve life, those are wins. Those are huge wins for everybody.
Absolutely. I can imagine. You can't take Wyoming out of Wyoming Signs. How do you make sure that you're capturing the essence of who we are in Wyoming when you create a sign? Because we're not Colorado, we're not California. How do you envision that in your sign making?
I think a number one thing there is it's got to be stout. Mm-hmm. Our weather is rough. Our winters are rough. Our wind takes a heck of a toll on signage. So I view Wyoming Signs as like we have to be tough. We have to be mentally tough. We have to be physically tough. And then we have to build a product that does that as well. A prime example that I would use is, I'm going to use just a roadway sign, right? So it has, by federal standard, that sign has to meet a 10-year reflectivity warranty. We're at a point now that we exceed that. Our signs meet 12 to 15 years of warranty. And we take a lot of pride in that. If we can build a product that we put outside and no one has to touch it for 10, 12, 15 years, I see great value in that, right? Like, if we all would love to see ourselves get 10 or 15 years maybe out of a brand new vehicle that we buy, right? Pretty hard to do. Mm-hmm. We can manufacture and sell a product that nobody touches for 10 to 12 to 15 years mm-hmm. and no additional cost. Mm-hmm. So that is probably the number one thing that we try to emulate. Like, we want our product to bring great value, to last for a long time and be tough, have some grit to it.
How do you also manage new technologies? Because there's a lot of the signs I see are they're not all of them are the new LED signs or they're the new modern signs. How do you mix that into what people are wanting now as opposed to 5 years ago?
Some of that is the market naturally does it. Probably the first time that I, as an individual, had really got educated on, we'll use an LED message center, for example. I think the first time I went to training on those would have been 2015, 2016. At that point in time, the product that we sold, they were explaining to us, like, hey, this is a wave of the future. Educate your customer on that it is a capital improvement. Educate on them that it is a marketing tool. And I probably, for 4 or 5 years, really tried to market those, and we had a limited amount of success with them. And then in the last year and a half, it's finally really taken off in Wyoming, and we've sold more LED message centers in Wyoming in the last 6 months to a year than we had probably before. So a little bit of that is it just as the society, as the people get educated, mm-hmm. That pushes some of it. And it moves in fads. There will be, for a while you'll have a fad of, everybody wants a certain design or look of a sign. And then it just naturally, it almost changes like fashion, right? And it has some waves. You'll see some people at some times where people want to go back to more of a retro look. Mm-hmm. You've seen a little bit of push of that here lately with neon, for example. And neon it's gorgeous. It is a huge part of the sign culture. It has some struggles because you can't find, there's not nearly the people that have the knowledge anymore to blow glass. But the technology is continually improving on some newer solutions, using some LED tubes and lights. And so it's ever evolving, just like I would use our clothing as an example.
Right. But those new LED message centers or the new technology, does it still represent a smaller portion of the overall products you offer?
It does. Yeah. It represents a smaller portion, primarily because they're pricey. So depending on what a business's plan is, when you start a business, when someone starts a new business, sometimes the number one goal is just to survive for a year. Mm-hmm. And then after that, the goal is to survive for 2 years. Right. With, let's say, using, like an LED message center, that's, really something that you want to be able to budget out as a capital improvement, over 10 years. If a business is just trying to get through them first few years, which are tough. I mean, it is tough. Like, you were trying to make sure that the world knows that they can trust you and rely on you. So they don't, an LED message center doesn't fit for everybody. They work great for a school. Schools have long-term plans. They work great for churches. Churches have a long-term plan. They work great for, cities and towns. They have a long-term plan. But if you have an upstart business, it doesn't fit them right away.
Absolutely. Are there other emerging technologies that are on the horizon that you see coming?
There's a few that I see coming. One of the things I think that is going to make a big change in the industry, and I think it's still probably a few years out. It's probably another 3 to 5 years. There's laser welders now, right? And I've seen some stuff and some videos on them. I thought, that's BS. It doesn't really work. Well, then I went to an expo in Chicago last fall and seen it, and it's real. It can make the welding process way quicker, lower cost, and doesn't take as much training for, having a welder to manufacture them. So I can see that in the next probably 3 to 5 years begin to make more of a play in the industry and on the manufacturing side. And I would say the 3D printing, right? There's quite a few people playing around with 3D printing. It's really interesting to us as well. You don't see much of it in the sign industry, right? You'll see every once in a while someone will build a prototype of a channel letter out of 3D printing. It still doesn't work because it's not totally cost effective because of the manufacturing time that it takes. And as well as like in a place in Wyoming, do we know that it will hold up to our weather?
Right.
Not yet, but I could see in 3 to 5 years, I could see it, playing more in there.
Are there other challenges that you see with new and emerging technologies that are coming out? I mean, wind is obviously another one. I mean, you can't put anything out in Wyoming weather.
Yeah, the wind is a huge one. It honestly limits a lot of stuff that can be done or cannot be done in Wyoming. We've had customers hire us to put up let's say a set of lit channel letters in Rawlins, Wyoming, and maybe they bought their products from somewhere from another company or from online, and we've had this happen. And if they're not rated for the weather, they just won't hold up. Like you could, and nothing against Chinese made products, but we've seen some channel letters come out of China manufactured that would work almost anywhere, but they won't work here.
Right.
Just because of our wind and weather. So it does. Wyoming still uses some older processes, primarily just because of the wind damage that can be that can take a toll on things. But the technology is ever evolving. The LED message center is an example of the technology that's there. There's a lot of technology there that people aren't even aware of yet, and maybe we're not even using here. But if you had a large LED message center in Las Vegas, New York, they have the ability to read the face of the traffic. So if it's pedestrian traffic, they can read the majority of the faces that are traveling, and whether they're male and or female, they will change the ad depending on who they're trying to market to or sell to. So the technology is becoming extremely smart.
So it's definitely changing over the years.
Yeah, and it's I think like a lot of the technology, sometimes it's a little hard because technology improvements maybe, especially in this day and age, move faster than our mind. So when there's new technology out, do we even know how to capitalize on it yet?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think that's anything that's, especially in the electronic, industries, is like whenever there's something new and innovative coming out, I always tell myself, wait a couple years, let them work out the bugs and the kinks and all of these things until it's actually usable for everyone.
Yep. Yeah. That's why I try to go to at least 1 or 2 signage expos a year. And one of the biggest things is just to do research. Like seldomly do we go find a product or a tool like, hey, we're going to implement that right now. But you get your eye on it, you see that it's developing, and in 3 to 5 years, it's a part of our plan and a part of our future.
So this year is your 10th year anniversary of Wyoming Signs. So you've officially entered into that level of being a veteran business owner here. So 10 years ago, you were 16, 17 years old?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe a little bit older than that. I think 10 years ago I was 35 years old. And
So if you look back then, what advice could you give to young business owners, young entrepreneurs? What hurdles have you had to face that you didn't expect that you can say to these young businesses just starting out? What would you do differently?
A few things I would recommend to you is don't listen to the naysayers. Like I wouldn't share all your dreams with people. Your dreams can scare other people. It makes them uncomfortable. and not that you don't want to share them, but I wouldn't share them until you really got it rolling. Your closest family, your closest friends can talk you out of what that risk is, and it is a lot of risk. But when something doesn't go bad either, don't listen to it. Just get back up, have some grit, and just keep pushing forward. Like, you have to believe in yourself. So, and just keep pushing it. That's the biggest thing I would say. Like, the one thing in life I think that always pays off, always, is hard work. If you outwork the competitor, you win. If they outwork you, they win.
Yeah, that's really good advice. What about resources or networks, network and support systems? Are there things that you would say that, because you can't do this alone. We spoke about this a minute ago about, the other companies, Ames Construction, that you work with. Are there support systems that you wish that you have today that you didn't have maybe 10 years ago or more?
I think business networking is huge. You really got to get your name and your face in front of people. And I believe if you're a solid person and you get out and meet people, like, they'll begin to believe in you. I think your Chamber of Commerces are a great place to network. They're a great place to build relationships. I know currently now, I've been in Rotary for probably 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years. That's another great place to work on those relationships. And when you get in those groups, you see other business owners, other community leaders. They see that you're invested in the community, and that's who they want to partner with. They want to partner with someone that has a long-term plan as well.
Exactly. No, for sure. I think that's how we met, was in the Rotary, but we're also part of the Chamber of Commerce together as well. And I think those long-term investments is what people see, because it goes back to what we said earlier about relationships, and that's how you find them. That's how you build them. Yep.
I totally agree.
Are there other ways that you cultivate relationships here in Casper? You mentioned the Rotary and the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, how do you get your network larger and larger? How do you meet these new clients?
I think back to the Chamber of Commerce is great, and we're members of a few chambers of commerce across the state. Rotary is another one. I know that at one point in time we were a member of BNI. BNI was a great one, Business Networks. That's a great way to network as well. We're also a member of the Wyoming Contractors Association and the Wyoming Construction Coalition as well. It's great ways to get out there and meet people. And one of the biggest things I would say, like, when you're invited to a function, go. And meet new people. Like, you got to really get out of your comfort zone. You got to meet people that are not just your people. I think that those are great. And I think that, I think it's important to then also, like, if I want to make a living and build a strong business in a community, I have to show that community that I'm invested in them as well. So for an example, like, we're working on a deal right now. They'll be doing Rotary Park has some needs for some new signage up there, and so we've offered to step up and donate the manufacturing and the products for all of those, for all of the signs around Rotary Park. And it's, for one, it's extremely rewarding as well, right? Like, so if I go up there and I hike with my family, we get to see it, right? We get to see a product that we've done. But then it also, we can use our expertise to make sure that the community, Rotary Park, Natrona County Parks Division, that they're going to get a product that is long-term. And I think that's really what I think in the end, probably after is a reputation of being someone that someone can rely on. And I would say probably that, that in the end of life, probably the two things that I am pursuing the most is I want to be trusted and I want to be respected. And the best way to do that is to just earn it, show people that we're respectable and show people that we're trustworthy.
That's wonderful. You are able to put your logo or your name on the signage that's going to go in Rotary Park or places like that?
We'll probably end up with doing that. Like, I'm not huge on that. Like, we get a lot of opportunities to put our logos on stuff that we sponsor and or work along with. I'm great with doing that if it helps the appearance of the sign. If it takes away from it, I'd rather not have our logo on it. Like, I think in the end, the reputation of just taking good care of people is going to go a lot further than putting our logo all over something. And we put it on a lot of things, right? Like we put it on our clothing, we put it on our vehicles.
Right.
But in the end, I think as long as we build a great product, install a great product, I think that will speak way larger volumes than us, plastering our logo on something.
Totally agree. And I think when people are looking for signage, they also look for references, and they look for recommendations, and they look for their relationships. And if they know that you did those signs, then it's going to come back to you.
Yeah, I agree.
So, in closing, what's if you could say one thing to the Casper, the greater Casper community that's listening to this podcast, what would you like them to know about Wyoming Signs?
I'd probably say the number one thing I'd like them to know is and we appreciate this community. And when I say this community, I mean that is, we're located in Mills, so I appreciate Mills. We appreciate Casper, and we appreciate the greater area. We appreciate Wyoming. That is probably the number one thing. Like I would say, Wyoming Signs has a phenomenal group of customers. Like I'm proud of what we do. I'm extremely proud of who we get to work with.
That is so true, and your reputation does speak for itself here in Casper and in Natrona County, obviously, in Wyoming. Thank you for joining us on Payrock Wyoming Spotlight. Thank you, Enoch, for joining us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this podcast and let people know who Wyoming Signs is and what Enoch Hart is doing for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.